Okay, the recording's in progress. This is somewhere near 20. I think it's 18 or 19. I think it's 19, session 19. We are going to be starting with wiping the mirror on page 34, still in chapter 1. And before we do that, just a quick announcement that if you are watching our archived recordings and you would like to join us live, first of all, we want you to know that you are more than welcome to join us live. And you can do that if you look in the comments section below the recordings, at least the most recent recordings, you'll find all the links that you need to be able to log in and join us live on our recordings on Wednesday evenings. So just know you're most welcome to join us. Okay, here we go. Page 34, wiping the mirror. Before we jump into that, was there anything left over from last week? Is there any old business that y'all would like to talk about?
Can I get that going where it says got it?
Yeah,
Yes.
click that.
Quit it? Did you
Click
say?
it. Click got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did have a quick question about
Sure, Sarah.
it's the second paragraph on page 33, where it says contemplation is an exercise in openness in keeping all three spaces open long enough for you to notice other hidden material. When you can do that, you are content with the present moment and can wait upon futures you now know will be given by grace. This is full access knowing, not irrational, but intuitive, rational, and transrational all at once. So I guess my question when I first read that, I was a little confused by what it might have meant, and I was thinking, is it referring to like the other hidden material and the full access knowing being well, when it says it describes full access knowing is not irrational but intuitive, rational, and transrational. So transrational is like, beyond human understanding. And my thoughts are that, like, if it's transrational and rational at the same time, then the rationality must be or it could possibly be like a reference to, like you were saying, even in the prayer, like know that we know, like does that referring to like the conscious awareness that we are intuitively understanding something beyond what is considered like human logic with our the and of course the knowledge is also like the closeness and the intimacy with God.
Yeah, that was a compound question. Let me see if we can.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Well, but see, that's the way this all works, and it's just like when we're trying to talk rationally about contemplation, we get into the same kind of situation and compound questions that you're talking about because everything's kind of an open question. To break this down a little bit, this contemplation as an exercise in openness is keeping all three spaces open. What three spaces are we talking about? If you go back to the beginning of the section, it's the heart space, the mind space, and the body space. So what we're basically talking about is heart space, emotional content, mind space, cognitive content or thoughts, right? And body space, that would be the senses, and all the somatic, and it can even be, physical symptoms that are somatic and part of the body spaces. But if we can step outside of those, in other words, it's not that they go away. It's not that you don't have any emotions, you don't have any thoughts, and you don't have any sensory input. It's that you're not choosing to focus on any of those. If we're not choosing to focus on any of those, even though they're present to our awareness, we're not thinking about them. So we're keeping all of that open as we're moving into contemplative practice.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that when we can step aside from thoughts, feelings, and other sensory input, then we can actually be completely present to the moment. The moment can be enough for us. When the moment is enough for us, that doesn't mean we're ecstatically happy, but it means we're content. We don't need anything added. We don't need anything taken away. Our preferences are not involved. We're not judging the moment. We're just present to it. And when we can do that, we can actually notice then this other hidden material he's talking about. That's really important because the other hidden material are our habitual thought processes, our habitual emotional triggers, a lot of that unconscious material that is really driving the bus. But we can start to actually become aware of that. Once we're aware of it and it comes up into the consciousness, now we can actually step away from that too. Once we realize what is triggering us into the same and habitual thought and behavior patterns, then we actually have the ability to choose other than those and get out of the rut of that kind of prison, that bondage that we are in. And so this is what he's talking about. That's the process. Contemplation, by stepping away from those three spaces and just entering choiceless awareness, we can start to get a handle on what's driving us in predictable patterns. And now he says you can wait upon futures you now know will be given by grace. So now we're not needing to have a specific outcome in order to be happy because we've uncovered that hidden material and we realize we can just let the moment be. That doesn't mean we're not working for outcomes, but we can let the outcomes come to us because they are a gift. The outcome is always a gift. We don't have control over that. All we can do is show up to the process. And then he says this is full, he calls it full access knowing. It's not irrational. In other words, it's not psychotic, right? It's not irrational to the point that we're not seeing, what everybody else sees. We still have a shared reality, but it's intuitive. When he says rational, I'm not thinking of rational in terms of actual logical, rational thought. I'm thinking of rational more as it's still reality based. It's not out there someplace in some sort of abstract spiritual land. It's still reality based. But I don't think of it myself as being part of rational thought. But it is also trans-rational. I've called it non-rational before. So it's something that exceeds just that rational thought. There's still a knowing there, but it really isn't rational so much. So trying to break those things down into different places, I think helps. And I'm interpreting, from my own contemplative experience and other reading, what Rohr is saying. I may not be doing justice to what he actually meant, but hopefully it makes sense to us. Did that help at all, Sarah?
A lot, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, yeah.
Did that make sense to any of the rest of you, or did it raise any other questions?
I thought it was good to hear.
Thanks, Linda. Okay. We did finish the rest of this section, didn't we? Or did we? Last week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so. As I was reading it, it was sounding less and less familiar as I read it. And I was thinking, did we really finish this last week? I thought we did. Okay.
There's some wild.
All right. So let's move on to page 34. So wiping the mirror. The Zen Buddhist masters tell us we need to wipe the mirror of our minds and hearts in order to see what's there without our distortions or even our explanations. Not what we're afraid is there, nor what we wish were there, but what is actually there. That is what a true mirror does, and thus offers perfect freedom. And he says, see James 1:23-25. Mirror wiping is the inner discipline of calmly observing our own patterns, what we see and what we don't, in order to get our demanding and over-defended egos away from the full control they always want. It requires us to stand at a distance from ourselves and listen and look with calm, non-judgmental objectivity. Otherwise, we do not have thoughts and feelings. The thoughts and feelings have us. Early Christianity spoke of this discipline as the necessary first path of purgation. The recovery movement calls it sobriety. Both agree that we must recognize our own games, fears, and filters. What is my real agenda? What are my prejudices? What are my leftover hurts that color just about everything I see? By utilizing compassionate and detached observation of ourselves, God helps us to recognize our own depths, little by little, and only when we are ready to handle them. The older I get, the more I know the patience and mercy of God with my soul. All right. Any thoughts or comments before we go back and pick it apart like vultures? Any lines stand out to you?
It reminds me a little bit about our discussion in the book, focusing on the shadow and coming to terms with recognizing and owning our shadow selves. And so it reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I like the line at the bottom of page 34. God helps us to recognize our own depths little by little, and only when we're ready to handle them. That's a important little detail there. I found that to be true as well.
I think it sounds like a 4-step, possibly.
A fourth step?
Yeah. Do you think so?
I think, yeah, take a look at the first line of the second paragraph. Mirror wiping is the inner discipline of calmly observing our own patterns, what we see and what we don't. That sounds to me like a fourth step. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Taking that fearless moral inventory, even if we don't really think of it as being moral, but we're still looking at our patterns. What is that other material that we're talking about that Sarah brought up? That largely unconscious material. What are those patterns? What is it that we really consistently do? What are we driven to do? What are the obsessions and compulsions? Those are so important for us to be able to see, because when you think about it, we've only got two tools to really change those deeply held patterns, and that's awareness and opposite action, contrary action. But we have to be aware enough in real time to see what's driving us so that we realize we actually have a choice. If we're not aware, then there doesn't seem to be a choice. It's just the way things are. And we just keep repeating the same things over and over again, the same thought patterns, the same behavior patterns. But once we realize it is a pattern, as we're in the midst of the moment, then we can choose something different. And that's the beginning of change. So awareness is everything.
It also jumped out at me too, Dave, about the very last sentence, just second half of life, being more aware in the second half of life, being, seeing it all come together and with patience and mercy and all that. Not so much in the first half of life, maybe, but second half, yeah.
Yeah, so true. It's funny, you can't know this when you're younger, that just the perspective of sitting on top of a pile of anniversaries and birthdays high enough to be able to see the contour of your life, to see the contour of children growing up to be adults, and all that takes place when you get to a certain age. There is no substitute for that. I mean, it changes everything about unless you are completely doubled down on first half of life principles and you just have got blinders on that are so opaque that you can't see that. But there's something about just having lived long enough that just changes your perspective. And I think that's what I'm seeing in that last line too, Kathy. All right, so going back to the top, the Zen Buddhist masters tell us we need to wipe the mirror of our minds and hearts in order to see what's there without our distortions or even our explanations. Not what we're afraid is there, nor what we wish were there, but what is actually there. That is what a true mirror does, and thus offers perfect freedom. So James 1:23 to 25, 1:23 to 25. That's what James is talking about, is someone who hears the word of God but doesn't do it. It's like someone who looks in the mirror and sees their face and then walks away from the mirror and forgets what they look like, forgets who they are. It's a great analogy that he uses, So what he's talking about is that we need to be hearers, but also doers. If we don't do what it is that we say we believe, then of course, what we say we believe doesn't make any difference. But it's in the doing that things change. It's not in the thinking about them. We want to think that we can just think about stuff and then we can make a change. And that's easy because you can think a new concept relatively quickly. You can get the concept, get it in mind, understand what it's all about. And then you can mentally agree that it's true. You just tell yourself, yeah, that's true. I agree. That makes sense. I'm going to say that's true. And then we think somehow that's going to change us. Oh, it doesn't change a thing. Until you act on what you say you believe, put something at risk, and do that a few hundred times, now you've got some change. And so James is telling us, you can't just say you believe in these scriptures. You can't just say you believe in these spiritual truths and think that anything has changed. The true mirror is going to show us what we do and not just what we think. And of course, James calls this following the law of liberty, which is so important as a concept because it's, again, paradoxical. But this law that's really just the law of love, okay? But it's a law that doesn't feel like any kind of restriction. It feels like complete freedom. You're doing what you want to do. You're doing the only thing that would occur to you to do, and yet you're following the law, if it's the law of love. And so this is the part of it, when you do it enough, it becomes you. He talks further down, we don't have thoughts and feelings, the thoughts and feelings have us. Well, the converse of that is that our beliefs aren't real until they're ingrained and they have become procedural memory, muscle memory as well. So the Zen Buddhist masters call this wiping the mirror. We've called it the descent in here. We've called it, clearing out distractions. We've called it a lot of different things. Jesus calls it selling everything and giving it away to the poor and coming and following me. He calls it picking up your cross daily, denying yourself and following. He has all of his characteristic ways of saying exactly the same thing. Paul says that the old man has to die, right? Same idea. It's wiping the mirror. It's letting go of everything that you have built up in your life that defines you, that you think is you. And then we can see what is really clear without distortion. When we've taken, piece by piece and body by body off the dog pile, when we get down to the bottom, what's there is clear. There is no distortion because we're not looking through anything. Or we keep taking lenses out of the filter, and eventually we can see clearly. So that's the process. It's always a process of descent before we can ascend on the other side. And so all the great disciplines are in agreement about that. So this mirror wiping is the inner discipline of calmly observing our own patterns. And that's really important. That calmly is really important. If we're trying to observe our own patterns and we're filled with guilt, we're filled with, this emotional content of what a horrible sinner we are. And, I'm the worst sinner I know. There's a guy who always said that, I'm the worst sinner I know. It was almost a point of pride. He was the worst sinner he knew, But if we're still looking through all of that emotional content, all those triggers, then we're really not going to get a clear idea here either. That calmly is an important word. Calmly observing our own patterns. It's kind of like taking this disinterested look. It's like putting on your lab coat and getting your clipboard and standing back and taking notes and watching yourself, clinically, coolly, in kind of a detached way. Oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I guess I do that, don't I? I wonder what the reason for that is. It's that kind of process that won't be, a monologue inside your head, but that's sort of the attitude behind it. So that what we see and what we see, I'm not saying that very well, observing our own patterns, what we see and what we don't, in order to get our demanding and over-defended egos away from the full control they always want. So if there's a lot of emotional content to it, if there's a lot of heat, if there's a lot of urgency, then the ego is still involved, is still in charge. Now the ego is telling you, you got to be better. We're better than this, and now we're distorting again. but to be able to step outside of that is going to be a different kind of experience. It requires us to stand at a distance from ourselves and listen and look with calm, non-judgmental objectivity. Yeah, we're not even judging ourselves here. This is just what we do. And there's always a reason for it. There's going to be something. If you go all the way back to your homes of origin, go all the way back to your childhood, you'll be able to find reasons for why these programs for happiness and survival are in place. Why are those things there? And you don't even have to go back to your childhood necessarily. It could be traumatic events and abandonments and losses that have occurred later on in life as well. But we're just going to look at that objectively. He says, otherwise we don't have thoughts and feelings, the thoughts and feelings have us. So this is what contemplative practice is about. This is what the therapeutic practice is about as well. It's trying to get us to objectively look at what is going on. What is the mix of things that keep us in this place that is uncomfortable for us, is miserable for us, and that we don't want to be? And how do we get out of that place? And in a very real way, contemplation is coming at this indirectly. We're not trying to figure something out. We're trying to step out of the way. And then the knowing kind of bubbles up. And especially not in the times of your actual contemplative sits, your meditation or your centering prayer, but other times during your waking day, and maybe through your dreams as well. It's a really interesting process, but it's so like that growing seed parable that is becoming more and more important to me the older I get. The one where the farmer goes out and does everything he's supposed to do in the field and then goes home and goes to bed. And the miracle takes place, the actual growth of the plant takes place while he's sleeping, and he has nothing to do with it and has no control over it and couldn't make it happen if he tried, but he can create the ideal environment for it to happen. So that's so descriptive of the contemplative process.
Dave,
Okay. I just said a lot of words. What do you got to say? Go ahead, John.
it was discussed, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but it was discussed earlier that somebody thought it was this was a fourth step, and in a post-step program, and in the first paragraph, I think is where it really addresses the mirror. We're wiping the mirror. It says, not what we're afraid is there, nor what we wish were there, but what is actually there. And then in post-step program, it says that we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And it's all of what you just said, stepping away, being detaching from any excuses we might have for our behavior and whatnot, but just what is actually there. And then we made columns and who were angry and how it made me feel and all this other stuff and what my part is and all that sort of thing. But this just jumped off the page at me when I read it. So anyway, enough of that.
All right. You and Sandy are on a beam.
Yeah, babe.
Great.
I have
I need another 4-step. That's what it is. I'm in the moment. When I did my first 4-step, I thought I had, I really did a good, thorough 4-step, but I was in such a different place than I am now. And the issues that I was struggling with are so different. And when I went on the retreat, I was like, totally realized I need to do it again. I didn't understand the reason for it until now. So now I do, and I got to do another one.
There you go. Yeah. Brady.
just a thought. In the dying experience, I wrote about it, but there was this moment or period where I realized that everything about me was known, and I knew everything was known, and I knew that the knower knew that I knew that everything was known. It's like everything was out there, and it just was. There was no judgment about it. It just was. And this came simultaneously with the sense that I had been forgiven and that there was grace. When I came off of that experience, I kind of basked in the glow of that for the time. I'm still human. And so there are times when I still find myself focusing on my regrets. The other day I just laughed at myself. I was in the bathroom and I was thinking of something kind of serious, and I looked up and my mouth was downturned and my brow was furrowed, and without thinking, I smiled at myself. And then I laughed at myself because I realized I was doing exactly what they're talking about here. I was modifying the image for something to look back at me that was more pleasant than what was being reflected.
That is just perfect, and to get that kind of candid shot of yourself in the mirror, so you can actually, oh my gosh, that's how I look when I'm thinking this way. That's perfect. And then to just smile, just hit it right between the eyes, because it changes the whole calculus. It changes your relationship to all of this stuff, and that's what we need. We don't. It's serious stuff, but we don't need to take it so seriously because it's just thoughts. It doesn't really exist. We're captive of our thought world, like we've been saying for the last few Sundays. And once you see that, it's like when the monster's chasing you in your dream. If you realize it's a dream, you can just turn and face the monster and it fades to white. There's nothing that can hurt you there. But sure feels like it, right? I think you get to the point where you can just look at yourself, and I always think of Ronald Reagan in those presidential debates. I know this is really dating me, but he just shake his head and go, "There you go again, Jimmy," and it's just like that's what you just kind of do to yourself. There you go again, Dave. You just kind of laugh at yourself, and it's just like, oh, okay, But it's that awareness that makes a difference. I can't do Reagan impressions, so just use your imagination on that one. Any other thoughts about this stuff? This is really critical. I mean, this is the crux of it. This is really what we're doing. If we can't get free of this unconscious material, if we can't get free of these patterns, then they always have us. And this to me is where the church has so failed us. They have so over spiritualized Jesus and Jesus' message. They've taken it so out of the context of its original Hebrew form that it's got no teeth. It doesn't do anything. It's passive. It's as if, we just pray to God, we say the sinner's prayer, we get baptized as an infant, we do these forms and functions and rituals, and then God's going to do all the work. Well, God's already done all the heavy lifting. But if we can't get free enough to see the heavy lifting that's been done, then it's never going to be available to us. It will never be effective in our lives. We'll never live in kingdom. And so it's like, this is it. This is what Jesus' way is. It is this process of descent. It is this process of wiping the mirror, cleaning the windshield, whatever you want to call it. But that's what it is, so that we can see the truth of the good news, which is we are already loved and approved. Once you got that in your back pocket, you can deal with life. But this is it. This is the work. And it's hard work. This is not easy. Hardest thing you will ever do.
Now, can you tell me what's again?
Just keep listening, Linda, because we'll explain it more as we go. Okay, dear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I think we all can.
Yeah.
It's working today. Yeah. I was looking at quotes and making graphics today. And when you were just reading about it requires to stand at a distance, from ourselves and listen and look at with calm, non-judgmental. I came across a quote, and you probably know it, but it says, if our lives and choices don't change in the presence of our faith, if our relationships don't grow stronger with our view of life brighter, what is it that we really believe? And that
Tony, unfortunately, your mic is cutting in and out. Is that just me or is everybody experiencing the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, your mic
Yeah,
is
it
cutting
cuts
in and out,
and out.
so we're not getting we're not getting what you're saying.
I want to connection, Tony.
Yeah, that tends to always happen with your mic for the last few weeks, but it's really bad today. So it's almost
Oh, sorry.
completely gone when it cuts out. You want to try one more time and maybe get closer to your mic and see if it comes through?
Yeah, I'm wearing my AirPods, but what I was trying to get at was that in that sentence, I don't know if you heard me
We
read
didn't
it, but
hear
it
it,
says,
no.
No.
okay, well, the sentence in the book says it requires us to stand at a distance from ourselves and listen and look with calm, non-judgmental objectivity.
Mhm.
It reminded me of a quote that I came across today that says, and I hope you guys can hear me, if our lives and choices don't change in the presence of our faith, if our relationships don't grow stronger and our view of life brighter, then what is it that we really believe? So I don't know if you guys heard that or not.
We
but
did. Perfect. Perfect.
So what that reminded
Now
me
you
of,
cut out again.
sorry. Yeah, right. What it reminded me of was that it takes a stepping back, like we just read. It takes a stepping back and then looking at ourselves to be able to then make not a judgment, but evaluate maybe of what is our beliefs,
Uh-huh.
what is our belief systems, and there is a time where we just need to take a look, turn back on it, on ourselves, and see what it is that our beliefs are and whether
Yeah,
or
buddy, we lost
living.
you again.
Oh, forget it. Okay. I'm sorry. My AirPods are goofy again.
Yeah, you need to get a new mic. You need a new
I'm
mic,
sorry.
one that won't make you sick. Where did that quote sounded familiar to me? Where did it come from?
Well, his name's Dave Brisbane.
Oh, that was one of mine. Interesting. I thought it sounded familiar. Where did that come from?
I hope all of you. I hope you heard it, and I was just trying to relate it to that sentence in the text.
Very cool, buddy. Very cool. All right. I just promoted myself and I didn't even mean to. He says early Christianity spoke of this discipline as the necessary first path of purgation. That sounds really scary, right? Basically, we're talking about purification when we talk about purgation. Purging, that idea, right? The recovery movement calls it sobriety. Both agree that we must recognize our own games, fears, and filters. What is my real agenda? What are my prejudices? What are my leftover hurts that color just about everything I see? And so that's so much the issue that we've just been talking about in these last few paragraphs. So it's just basic human development. This is basic human psychology and spirituality. So it's the work of every single one of us coming out of childhood. If we don't do this work, we're stuck back there someplace, in those patterns. And for us to be able to have full human relationships, for us to be able to be unlimited in our growth, we have to outgrow those. We have to get clear of those. However you do it, if you do it by contemplation, if you do it through therapy, whatever it needs to be done, or we're always going to be compromised as adults. And that's what we want to do. We want to get to that place where at least 51% of the time we're living in the real world, because that's where our character actually starts to change. But so important that this work gets done. And the most effective is going to be when it's coming from both sides, coming from more clinical psychology, psychological side, and also from a spiritual, contemplative side as well, because the two just mesh perfectly. And the one who was brilliant at putting those together was Thomas Keating. So if you ever read any of his books, he puts the psychological and the contemplative together in a great way.
I'm leaning my head.
By utilizing compassionate and detached observation of ourselves, God helps us to recognize our own depths little by little, and only when we're ready to handle them. You know, that's so important. You're only going to be ready to handle them when you're ready to handle them. I mean, that's just the basic truth of it. You know, it's just going to work out that way. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. You know, one of our favorite sayings here, at least my favorite sayings here. But to start to recognize, to become aware of these deeper and deeper layers, you know, like Sandy was talking about, she needs another fourth step because she's ready now to get to the next layer, and then the layer after that, and the layer after that. So this isn't a one and done. This is a circular process. We've talked about that. We're going to go through our lives as a spiral, as a corkscrew. We're going to take each one of these circuits, which represents another hero's journey. There'll be a wounding, there'll be a loss, there'll be something that pulls the curtain away and rocks our world once again. So the complacency of what we thought was true and certain is now shaken. And that puts us off on another circular path where we're going to be given new tasks, and new teachers and guides will show up, and we'll be given new tools. And when we come back to where we started, we know the place again for the first time a little bit better, and we're at this higher perspective. And then we just keep going through. So layer by layer, you know, we're going to be taking these fourth steps all the time, you know, in a series, because that's going to get us deeper and deeper, and we're getting a clearer and clearer filter each time we take another circuit.
Dave, I was listening to a Jason Gray song this afternoon on the highway, and it was for the first time again is the lyric. So Jesus, I'm coming to you for the first time again. And I always really liked that song because it's exactly what you're saying. These things go circular. So we want the same experience, but I'm finding now I'm not getting the same experience, but it does feel like the first time. So I had and I've shared this with you, Dave, privately, that I've had quite an experience in 2011, and I've longed for that again. I've longed to be that intimate with the Lord, but it's not the same now. It's in some ways it's deeper and better, but it's not the same. So, you know, I feel like Jesus, I'm coming to you for the first time again.
Danielle was talking last night about John Dominic Crossan, and one of the there were two guys. It was Crossan and then Marcus Borg, who kind of occupy the same sort of space as scholars and progressive thinkers and theologians and all of that. But Marcus Borg had a book called Meeting Jesus Again for the First Time. And I just, to your point there, Ken, it's a great title. And it's so descriptive of the actual experience. You know, we think we know Jesus, or we think we know whatever, but to take another circuit along this journey and come back, it's like you know it again for the first time. It's that experience over and over again.
And that is what you've been trying to share. That's really what Rohr is trying to share.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's what all you clinicians out there, you know, you eggheads with your bloody hats, that's what you're trying to share with us too.
Yeah, you guys, I was coming back from a therapy visit, as a matter of fact. So
So your head is shrunk? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
yeah, my head is shrunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
I'm glad to be doing it. And I
That's
need
great, Linda. And then we have Kathy's line. The older I get, the more I know the patience and mercy of God with my soul. You know, we have to have patience for ourselves. And what he's saying is that he realizes how much patience God has, but we've got to have our patience for ourselves, because you cannot hurry the process. You just can't do it. The more you try to hurry the process, the more you're stuck. You know, it's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you go. It's just the way it works. You know, it's getting out of the way when you actually are going to make the movement forward, and just keep showing up, with abandon, with that choiceless awareness. Just show up and do not worry about the outcomes. Just engage the process, enjoy the process, be curious about the process, notice what you feel in the process, but don't judge the process. Just show up and let it unfold, letting it unfold, like the farmer has to let the plant grow. Once the farmer's done everything that he can, she can for the process, you just have to let the process go. You can't hurry it. You can't make it happen by sheer force of will. And so we got to have patience for ourselves.
It's good to me.
All right.
I would add tenderness.
Yeah, that's a good word. I like that word. Absolutely. Patience and tenderness. Understanding. How many decades did it take us to get into this predicament? You think you're going to get out overnight? I think not. But be of good cheer. It's not going to take the same amount of time it took you to get in, to get back out. It has to do with how many hours a day do you want to practice? That's what it really comes down to. The more time and intention you put into your daily experience, the faster you're going to move along.
Well, and it makes you appreciate the whole thing about, like you say, distractions, letting them go. And when you get older, you don't sweat the small stuff like you used to when you were younger. It's just not that important anymore. You let that stuff go and just focus on the real stuff, I guess, once you figure it out.
There's a famous quote, and I can't remember who, I should be able to say who said it, but it goes like, man seeks rest and removes obstacles to obtain it, and having gotten it, immediately flees, for it falls upon him those things of the past or those things of the future. And it's that same thing about what our mind does. We want to seek peace, and then this happens, and then to get away from all the stuff that our mind's doing, then we seek distraction. We want to find some way to fill the space, so we're distracted from all the mind's bad work.
That's so true, Braden. If you think about it, what is the egoic mind's night terror? What is the egoic mind's greatest fear? It's to be irrelevant. It's not to matter. And when you move into contemplative space, the egoic mind doesn't matter. And it will fight that. It will fight for its own survival. It's like a living, breathing organism. It's like the alien within you that you're kind of at odds with, even though it's an essential part of your makeup and it's an essential part of who you are as a human being. But at the same time, it's going to fight for itself. And you just need to be aware of that. So even when you get into that rest that you're craving and you're working so hard for, as Brady says, watch what happens next.
It's also, I think the ego is also wanting control all the time. And then, you'll learn at the end of the day, you don't have a whole lot of control over a lot of stuff. So you have to just let it go. When we talked about surrender and we've talked about all those things, that kind of goes with it. That's the wisdom that comes with, second half of life, I think. Sometimes.
And James addresses that when he says, it's only a fool who says, hey, I'm going to meet you next Tuesday for lunch, because you have no idea what's going to happen between now and next Tuesday. The proper thing is, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll meet you next Tuesday. But at least there's an acknowledgement there that you don't have control over this. And Jesus, who said, you can't make one hair white or black or add an inch or an hour to your stature or to your life, so if you can't control the smallest realities of life, how much more are you out of control with all this stuff that you have the illusion of being able to manage? It's coming back to that humility, which is simply seeing correctly the relationship that you have with yourself, with each other, and the universe. If we can just see that correctly, then we can start to manage. We can accept life on life's terms. We can live with hope and gratitude. But if we're still under the ego's control and the illusion that we can manage all this stuff, we can make outcomes our own, then life is going to be a personal hell. It's just no other way about it. And I would like to say, Kathy, you said earlier, when you get older, you don't sweat the small stuff. Unfortunately, just spend a little time in an Albertsons checkout line and you'll find out that's not really true. We would like to think we get wiser as we get older, but most of us just get older. It's really sad. Which is why Jesus talked about the narrow way and the narrow gate, right? Now I've said this 100 times. I know we think about this as heaven and hell, but it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with this. How many people will actually do this work? How many people will actually wipe the mirror? How many people will get clear enough and detached enough from all of these old programs that they can really just see what's there? They can make their choices based on what the circumstances really require, what love requires in the circumstances. There are so precious few of us who actually do that, which is why the world looks the way that it does, right?
Yeah.
I think that is the gift of our recovery, is that we have been forced to our knees. And those of us that have been forced there, I get a chance to look up and really we've dig these deeper depths that people that haven't been broken, they don't need to go there, so they don't.
And absolutely, Sandy. The first AA meeting that I went to, I remember an old timer standing up and just talking about how grateful he was that he was an alcoholic, and my chin dropped, and how in the world? Now I understand. That was the pain that he needed. That was the crisis he needed in his life to strip the cupboard bare, so that he actually took this different trajectory in his life. Now, maybe something else would have done that if it weren't for alcoholism, but that was the thing in his life that he could be grateful for, because it became that hinge moment where his life moved in a different direction. Each one of us sitting here in this Hollywood square, we can go back and we can say, okay, yeah, I can see where I had a hinge moment too. And I can be grateful for that hinge moment, even if you're not grateful for the pain or the disruption that that moment might have caused for you and others in your life. But at least you can be grateful that it was the beginning of something different. And that's the beginning of another hero's journey, another circuit. And let's face it, it's pain that motivates us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We progress at the pace of pain. Another slogan from the program that I love. Well, we finished our little section here. There's no point in starting the next one yet. Are there any other thoughts or comments?
Dave,
yeah.
You mentioned when Ken said he was leaving the psychologist that he had his head shrunk. Where does that saying come from? You get your head. Where?
That is a good question.
Because I like the idea. It fits our discussion here, right? Shrinking your, getting out of your thoughts and programming.
The metaphor, William.
Say again?
Metaphor, William.
I am sure it had its origin somewhere, right?
Well, I sure felt like my head was shrunk today. It was some painful therapy going today. So,
well, don't they call psychiatrists shrinks?
Yeah.
Right.
So wouldn't that be where it is, that you go to a shrink to get shrunk?
You go to get drunk.
Not drunk, shrunk.
Is it because you come into a session with an ego and then the ego gets shrunk down? Is that?
Yeah, That's
Okay,
what
I
I'm
just
saying.
looked it up. I looked it up, and here's what
Right
they
sizing
say.
yourself.
I don't know if this is true, but it says here the word shrink comes from head shrinkage, which refers to the ancient practice of shrinking the head of a conquered enemy. Thus, shrink originated as a slang term that people use to refer to mental health professionals. So I suppose if you're shrinking the head of your interior enemy, I don't know.
But whose custom was it? I don't
Oh,
think
the
it's.
term is largely outdated and belongs to an era in which mental health treatment was a source of shame. While there remains a stigma surrounding mental health today, getting treatment is far more widely accepted than it was when this term was more commonly used. So, I don't know. That's not a real satisfying etymology.
Yeah.
Where did the custom come from? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
We can probably make up one that's
Shrinking your demons, shrinking the demons in your mind, maybe. I don't know.
There
That's
you
what
go.
I think of.
Yeah, something like that.
Make your monsters really small.
Yeah, we have all these words we can't say now about mental health, but as someone who's been in a mental health hospital twice, I still use the term loony bin, only in appropriate settings. Yeah, back when I was in the bin for short. If you can't laugh about it, you haven't been there. That's what I say.
And only you can say it, Ken, because you've been there, right?
That's right.
Don't you think the loony comes from? Loony, the thing, I think from lunatic, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I've got in my head. Da, 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 da,
Looney Tunes, yeah.
I just want to remind all of you that people from all over the English-speaking world will be watching.
Right.
Oh, okay. So I apologize for any offense. I apologize for any offense. I wasn't,
Put a
but I
little
wasn't a
disclaimer
psychic
out there,
twice.
Dave, at the end of the thing.
Yeah, we need a disclaimer, right? The views expressed here are not
You got your
necessarily.
own, that's what your memories.
Dave, tell him to send cards and complaints to me.
But truly, anybody who can't handle this has probably not gotten this far anyway. So I think we're safe. Yeah.
I like that we have a little fun along the way.
We do. We
I
do.
think the laughter in the rooms of A is why we stayed.
Amen, Sandy. Amen.
And we
All
gotta
right. Well, let's bring it to a close on this this Spy Wednesday, this of Holy Week 2024. There you are. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Father, for this wonderful time together. Fellowship and learning and growing and just discovering what's discoverable along our life's path. Thank you that you have an amazing path planned out for us. And your amazing love draws us to explore those paths. So it's with deep appreciation and love in our hearts one for another, as reflected off of your face, that we give our thanks and say our amens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, everyone. So don't forget Good Friday.
Thanks,
We'll be
Scotty.
streaming 7 o'clock if you're not local or
Absolutely.
you can't make it, but we would love to have you with us in any way, shape, or form that you can be. And then, of course, Easter Sunday. So we will see you all then.
Were we supposed to
Happy
were we supposed to bring a snack on Friday?
You
Yes.
can bring just like cookies and muffins or something like that. Yeah, that would be great.
And we're doing book study next Wednesday, correct?
We are doing book study next Wednesday. Yes. And
Great.
Tuesday conversations as well.
Great. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Love you guys.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
After church on Sunday?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
There's going to be lunch after church on Sunday.
I would assume so. Yeah, unless people are just heading off to do their own thing. We'll see.
For Easter?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would have assumed no. So, okay.